Welcome to Star Lens, your trusted source for the stories they never wanted told. The story you're about to hear is disturbing and not gentle in any way. This is a story connected to Meghan Markle that, according to people who once stood close to her, was never meant to be repeated. Not because it was small, but because it was dangerous. Dangerous to reputation, dangerous to image, dangerous to the future that was still being built. And for years, it stayed that way. Those who claim to have known about it describe an unspoken rule. Certain names were not to be mentioned. Certain places were never brought up. Certain weekends were quietly erased from conversation. One man in particular is often described as enforcing that silence. Marcus Anderson. Someone who knew what Meghan wanted before she said it out loud. Subscribe to Royal Daily. Report now. Don't miss what was buried. According to source circles, whenever this story came close to the surface, it was shut down immediately. Not denied, not explained, just buried. Because this story does not begin with Prince Harry. It begins much earlier. It begins in the south of France. Nice, France. February 2002. The Mediterranean was calm, almost deceptively so. The kind of blue that makes everything feel peaceful, even when something beneath the surface is about to shift. Floating just off the coast was a luxury yacht owned by a wealthy Greek businessman. The kind of yacht that didn't attract attention by accident. Polished decks, discreet staff, a guest list that mattered. The crew moved quietly, preparing for a very specific arrival. Prince Andrew was expected. At the time, he carried enormous social power, more than most people realized, and certainly more than history would later allow him to keep. But before Prince Andrew ever stepped onto that yacht, someone else arrived. A young woman few people recognized. Her name was Meghan Markle. She wasn't famous. She wasn't protected. And she wasn't there by accident. Stay tuned to Star Lens. We reveal what happened on that yacht. To the people on board, she appeared friendly, talkative, confident, maybe even a little too confident. She smiled easily. She moved comfortably through conversation, and she spoke as if she already knew where she was going in life, even if no one else did yet. This wasn't the Meghan the world would later meet. There were no cameras, no titles, no scripts to follow, just a young actress in a private setting surrounded by wealth, influence, and possibility. And she made sure people noticed her. According to those who were there, Meghan didn't present herself as uncertain or hopeful. She spoke as if her future was already written. She talked about her father's Hollywood connections, about her work, about politics, about ambition. Not in a dreamy way, but in a declarative way. Not maybe one day, but this is where I'm going. Some guests later admitted they weren't sure if everything she said was true, but they all agreed on one thing. She spoke like someone who expected greatness to come to her, like someone who believed she belonged in rooms like this. And when the crew finally announced that Prince Andrew had arrived, her attention sharpened. Witnesses recall a change. Her posture straightened, her focus narrowed. She watched the staircase as if the moment she had been waiting for had finally arrived. Don't forget to subscribe to Star Lens for the witness accounts. Because according to those who observed her that night, this wasn't just another party for Meghan Markle, it was an opportunity, and she was ready. What happened next didn't unfold slowly. It didn't take days or even hours. It took minutes. And once Prince Andrew stepped onto that yacht, the weekend began moving in a direction no one there would ever forget. Prince Andrew stepped onto the yacht with the ease of someone who had spent his entire life being welcomed. He smiled, shook hands, made light conversation about the weather and the sea. Nothing about his arrival seemed rushed or dramatic. But according to those watching closely, something shifted almost immediately, because the moment he noticed Meghan Markle, his attention changed, and Meghan noticed him noticing her. What followed did not take the entire evening. It did not take a long conversation or a slow build. According to witnesses, it took less than 30 minutes. Before drinks had fully circulated and before the music had settled into the night, Meghan was already seated on Prince Andrew's lap. She was wearing a small white bikini. She leaned in close, speaking softly into his ear, laughing as if they had known each other far longer than they had. From a distance, it looked intimate. From nearby, it looked deliberate. Star Lens, bringing you the 30-minute timeline. People on the yacht noticed. Conversations paused. Glances were exchanged. Not because it was shocking, but because it was fast. This was not a quiet flirtation hidden in a corner. It was visible. It was confident, and it left little room for misunderstanding. According to those present, Meghan did not behave like someone surprised by the attention. She appeared prepared for it, comfortable in it, as if this moment had been anticipated. And Prince Andrew did not resist. That brief half-hour changed the tone of the entire weekend. What had started as a luxury gathering suddenly felt charged. Something had begun, and everyone on board could feel it, but no one yet understood just how far it would go. As night settled over the French coastline, the party continued above deck. Music played, champagne bottles opened, laughter echoed across the water. But two people were missing: Prince Andrew and Meghan Markle. According to a witness who spent the entire weekend on board, they slipped away quietly, moving down a narrow staircase that led to the lower cabins of the yacht. A door closed behind them, and then they did not come back. Not an hour later, not the next morning, not the day after that. For 3 full days, Prince Andrew and Meghan Markle remained below deck. Subscribe now to Star Lens. We expose the 3-day disappearance. Crew members delivered food and drinks discreetly, leaving trays outside the cabin like room service for guests who did not wish to be seen. There were no public appearances, no casual returns to the deck, no explanation of it. Above deck, the conversations changed. People whispered, they speculated, they joked, but beneath it all was disbelief at the length of time. This was not a private conversation. This was not a single night. This was a disappearance. By the second day, everyone knew where the prince was and exactly who he was with. By the third day, even the staff no longer pretended otherwise. According to those present, the speed and intensity of the situation left a lasting impression. This was not subtle. It was not hidden, and it was not something the people on board would ever forget. Later, as guests pieced together the weekend, one comment began to stand out. Earlier, before Prince Andrew's arrival, Meghan had reportedly been overheard saying, "I've got my prince at last." At the time, it sounded playful, almost joking. Something said lightly without weight. But after 3 days below deck, the sentence felt different. To those who heard it, it no longer sounded like a throwaway remark. It sounded like intent. Star Lens, your window into the calculated plan. According to witnesses, Meghan had been bold from the moment she arrived. She spoke with certainty. She moved with purpose. And when the opportunity presented itself, she reached for it without hesitation. This was not a story of quiet attraction unfolding naturally over time. This was, according to every source on board, a young woman aiming high and acting fast. When the yacht finally returned to shore, the Mediterranean air still clinging to everyone's clothes, the weekend ended. But the story did not, because whatever happened below deck did not stay there. It followed them back onto land. When the yacht returned to shore, guests went their separate ways. Luggage was packed. Goodbyes were exchanged. On the surface, life moved forward. But according to sources who stayed in contact with Meghan afterward, she did not behave like someone closing a chapter. She stayed connected. The witness known as Bob, along with Theo, the yacht owner's son, and Theo's girlfriend Melanie, all remained in touch with her in the weeks that followed. Through those conversations, a clearer picture began to form. Meghan did not speak about the yacht weekend as a brief encounter or a passing moment. She spoke about it as a beginning. According to those accounts, there were phone calls, messages, hints of something continuing beyond the coast of France. Don't forget to subscribe to Star Lens for what happened next. Prince Andrew was traveling across Europe at the time, handling official duties. And despite the distance, communication allegedly continued. For Meghan, this wasn't a story she was leaving behind. It was a connection she believed still existed. And for a short while, it seemed like she might be right. Then, Prince Andrew returned to London and everything changed. Once back in England, the tone shifted abruptly. According to source accounts, Meghan obtained not Prince Andrew's personal number, but the official office line connected to his work at the palace. She called. She waited. She expected a return call. It never came. The calls continued. The response did not. According to the witness retelling, Prince Andrew allegedly instructed staff not to put her through. Calls were blocked. Messages went unanswered. The same man who had shared 3 days in total privacy now became completely unreachable. This wasn't a misunderstanding. It wasn't poor timing. It was silence, structured, deliberate, and absolute. To Prince Andrew, according to those who later reflected on it, the yacht weekend appeared to have been just that, a weekend. A moment that ended the second he stepped back into his royal world. But to Meghan, it was something else. It was a door she believed had opened and then slammed shut without warning. Star Lens bringing you the pregnancy claim. According to information later shared with Melanie, there was one reason Meghan continued trying to reach him. She believed she was pregnant. Not months later, not years later, but in the weeks immediately following the yacht trip. According to those accounts, Meghan believed this news would force a response, that it would at least bring acknowledgement, closure, something. She tried calling again. The phone never rang back. Every attempt was ignored. Every path closed. Prince Andrew's world moved forward as if the yacht, the cabin, and the 3 days below deck had never happened. Meghan was left alone with a decision she believed she could not avoid. According to the information passed along, she chose to end the pregnancy. Not because it was easy, not because it was what she wanted, but because of the reality she believed she was facing, being permanently tied to a man who refused to speak to her while her own future still felt uncertain and fragile. At the same time, sources claim she was becoming close to someone else, someone in Washington, someone connected to political power, someone who represented a different kind of opportunity. A child, she believed, would close that door completely. And so, the decision was made quietly, privately, without a single message returned from the man she once believed could change her life. Subscribe to Star Lens now and hit the bell icon. 20 years passed. Meghan Markle did not disappear. She did not fade. She married a different prince. She entered history through another door. Her name became global. Her face familiar. Her life examined in ways few could have imagined back in 2002. And yet, the story did not vanish. In 2022, during the Queen's Jubilee celebrations, an old thread resurfaced. The woman who had originally shared the yacht story crossed paths again with Bob, the Australian backpacker. They talked casually about life, about England, and then Meghan's name came up. Only then did Bob retell the story, the yacht, the sudden intimacy, the 3 days below deck, and the silence that followed. He was older now, married, expecting a child of his own. The last thing he wanted was attention. When approached about going public, he refused to attach his name. He refused money. Even when offered thousands for his identity and photograph, he declined. Not because he denied the story, but because some stories once spoken could not be taken back. So the account remained where it had always lived, between private conversations, unprinted, unconfirmed, but never forgotten by those who were there. Stories like this don't disappear. They wait. And as this one surfaces again, it leaves behind a question that refuses to settle. How different might history have been if one phone call had been answered? If one door had remained open? If one weekend had not been erased? Because sometimes the most powerful stories are not the ones that explode. They are the ones that echo. This was Star Lens, uncovering the story buried for 2 decades. Subscribe now and stay informed on the secrets that resurface. Stay connected with Star Lens, where buried stories refuse to stay silent.